Fixes give some example list the 7 units of a system international along with their symbol and physical quantity. Also explain with example how derived units are obtained. Unit 2 है what is translatory motion, explain its type with example, derived first, second and third equation of motion. उसके बाद unit 3 है जी state Newton's second law of motion, derive its formula, define force in terms of momentum, how can you relate a force with the change of momentum of a body, state law of conservation of momentum, explain with example, define resolution of force, explain how a force can be resolved into perpendicular components, how can you find a center of gravity of a regular shaped body, explain with an experiment, explain there is a need of second condition of equilibrium if a body satisfied first condition of equilibrium, right? Advantages and disadvantages of friction, also describe ways to reduce friction, define centripetal force, prove that Fc is equal to m square over r. Unit 4 है जी explain head to tail rule for addition of vectors, how can a force be resolved into its rectangular components, how can determine the force resultant force F if its perpendicular components are given, explain second equation of motion, equation of equilibrium, explain the difference between stable, unstable and neutral equilibrium. Unit 5 has state law of gravitation, derive its mathematical formula, calculate mass of earth by using law of gravitation, derive the relation for gravitational acceleration g for a body which is lying at height h above the surface of earth, how can the mass of earth be determined, what are artificial satellites, also find its speed at height h revolving around the earth. Number 6 है जी define kinetic energy, prove that ke possessed by a moving body depends upon its mass m and square of the velocity v. Mass and energy are inconvertible, explain with example what is solar energy, how can we make solar energy useful for us, define potential energy and derive its relation, how is energy converted from one form to another, explain, write note on the solar housing system. Unit 7 है explain kinetic molecular model for solid, liquid and gases, what is plasma physics, plasma, explain state Archimedes principle, derive its mathematical relation, how can we calculate the density of an object by using Archimedes principle, state Pascal's law and explain the working of hydraulic press, describe and explain kinetic molecular model of matter, explain pressure in liquid and derive its formula. Unit 8 define specific heat, how can you find the specific heat of a solid, state and explain heat capacity with the help of example, define linear thermal expansion in solid, derive a mathematical relation for it, write the characteristics of liquid used in the thermometer, define and explain latent heat of fusion and latent heat of vaporization and write formula, define vaporization, also write the various factors on which rate of evaporation depends, explain volume thermal expansion. Unit 9 की बारी है जी define conduction of heat, explain the phenomena of conduction of heat in the light of kinetic molecular model of matter, what is thermal conductivity, on what factor rate of flow of heat depends upon, what do you mean by insulator, give some uses of insulator, why does the sea breeze blow during the day, also explain why land breeze blows from land toward sea, what causes a glider to remain in air, define radiation, on what factors the rate of radiation depends upon, what is Leslie's cube, describe its working and principal use, what is greenhouse effect, explain the impact of greenhouse effect in global warming, how does the temperature in a greenhouse can be maintained, derive an expression to determine the thermal conductivity of a solid material, explain the uses of conductors and non-conductors in detail. अब बारी है जी मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एग्जाम्पल की। सबसे पहले 11.4 जो है एग्जाम्पल नंबर वो सबसे अहम है, फिर 2.2, 2.10, 2.14, 3.1, 3.6, 4.2, 4.3, 4.5, उसके बाद है 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 5, 6.7, 7.1, 7.3, 7.4, 8.1, 8.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एग्जाम्पल है। उसके बाद बारी है न्यूमेरिकल्स की 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7, 1.10, 2.3, 2.6, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.8, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.6, 4.9, 5.1, 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, 7.9, 7.11, 7.12, 8.1, 8.2, 8.5,